guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. As you guys can tell, if you watch the news recently, feminists and leftists, they think they're winning the culture war, but they're actually losing it, and they're losing it specifically to men. I've talked about in the past when the rules get changed, when the game gets changed, whether it's marriage, dating, divorce, business opportunities, ways to earn money, men are pretty creative. We have to survive. We have to find a way to continue to do what we're going to do. And no matter how much you come after us, we're going to make some shifts and some changes, and we'll be just fine. We're women and also feminists. They want to impose their rules and their beliefs on everybody. And if you don't like it, they're going to just impose it harder. And then they're going to take away freedoms and they're going to take away rights from you until you submit. And that's fine for weak people. That's fine for maybe the blue-pilled guys that are fine with going along with what women want, because maybe if they're a good little boy, they'll win some favors and or some bedroom fun. But the rest of the guys are not. And because of this, we're winning, even though it may not be apparent. Now, there's going to be some doomers out there, and some of you guys that say, "Oh, everything's awful," and you're not paying attention. But I pay attention 8 to 10 hours a day to the internet, looking at all sorts of news stories, and there's an overall trend that seems to be coming out. Yes, the news media, yes, governments, everybody's pushing, but there's this undercurrent that's happening, and that's actually in the zeitgeist of where more things are happening. Gen Z, among almost every year, the younger group of people coming up and becoming voting age and getting into adulthood move just slightly to the left. But now Gen Z and many of the young people are moving quite a bit right. And because of this, we're seeing a shift. The pendulum at some point either has to shift or it's going to fall off. We'll get into that. I'm going to talk about it. There's no stories to read from. There's lots of examples, but there's no stories to read from because no one writes about this stuff. Or if they do, it just doesn't get mainstream because that's not allowed anymore. But we'll get into that. Before I get too deep in, please, I'd like to thank all the supporters that I have over on betterbachelor.locals.com. You can become a member for a month for $5. Support me for a full year, and become a supporter for $50 for a full year. We do live streams. We've got an amazing forum of like-minded dudes and some women that talk about the issues that we're suffering. Yes, most of it is either centrist or slightly to the right, because that's kind of the counterculture. So if you'd like to become a supporter, I would really appreciate it. Lets me do what I'm doing as YouTube tightens the thumbnails down on me. And tonight we have Saturday night at the movies. We're going to be doing Memento and True Lies. That's a live stream. So if you come on over and check it out, that's for supporters. So I do 4 or 5 of those a month. And lastly, my new channel, Odd Man Out News, that's doing well. I've got 7,000 subscribers over there, and my first 2 videos are up and doing pretty well. So come on over and check out my news site, because let's face it, we're getting to the point of oversaturation of men's content. We really are. I notice that my views on my things are slowly going down on Better Bachelor. That's okay. I'm not screaming or complaining about it. Does YouTube have a little bit to do with that? I'm sure they do. But I think we're also at the point where guys are like, you know what, this is everywhere now. And that's a win. When we have men's issues and the conversations of things that men are struggling with all over the place, and it's permeating modern culture and pop culture and news stories and everything like that, to the point where I'm becoming irrelevant. I've always said I'm fine with that. I will adapt, and I will find something new to do. Part of that is doing news. Part of it is doing things on Rumble. Part of it is doing live streams and things on Locals. I'll be fine. I'll adapt. But I think it's a win that things are becoming oversaturated with men making fun of what's going on, because that means, once again, we're winning that culture war. So we'll start here. If you guys, this is Sydney Watson. She's a YouTuber. She works at Publica writing news stories, and Publica is the quartering Jeremy Hambly. He started a website that covers news with Sydney Watson. They're good friends. They work together. But again, I'm going to go through down a bunch of just different stories all over the internet of good examples of how guys just in general are winning and pushing back against the left and feminism and everything else, and that we're the punks of the 80s, we're the grunge of the 90s, we're the I don't know what other eras we'd be in, but because those are the only ones I've been alive in. We're the counterculture. We're the ones having fun. We're the ones exploring other options other than what the government and everybody tells us what to do. We are the counterculture, and that's something that is a good place to be, I think, right now. Sydney posted this. She said, it's bizarre how videos of women having fun and being silly always seem to go viral on this app because a bunch of angry little people try to turn it into some broad conversation about women in the workforce and voting, etc. Let people enjoy things. I'm going to turn up the audio. This is actually a video I put in one of my video intros the other day on women not doing so well. I'm going to play this, and it's women being idiots in the workplace. And Sydney's very upset that people are making fun of them. Let me turn down the volume so I don't blow your ears out. And you'll hear what she's talking about. You'll get it.
Gen Z boss and a mini. Gen Z boss and a mini. Itty bitty titties and a bob. Itty bitty titties and a bob. 5'3" and an attitude. 5'3" and an attitude. Secret product in the trench. Secret product in the trench. New friend green and a sneaky link. New friend green and a sneaky link. Fake 10 hands in a hoop. Fake 10 hands in a hoop. Gen Z boss.
So this is supposed to go viral, I guess, and it has gone viral. And she says, oh, little angry people trying to turn it into broad conversation about women in the workforce. Well, needless to say, she did get ratioed. She has 3.4 thousand likes on it. I posted down below this, how do you think people would feel if any of these women were their boss? It's unserious, childish, not appropriate for workplace, and it causes subordinates to see them as children. Women, however, don't seem to grasp that concept. And Carl Benjamin from over at Podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and used to be Sargon of Akkad here on YouTube until they demonetized him for sharing too much truth. He says it's because they're unserious and childish. These people expect respect for their positions they hold, then trivialize themselves like this and wonder why people don't respect their authority. If women expect to be taken seriously by others, they need to behave seriously. Now, of course, they get into a back and forth. He got 5,000 likes on that. Frankly, quite handily outdoing Sydney's original post. It's because Carl is like myself. We're men. If you want us to be in a job, now granted, guys that, call themselves Becky and speak with a lisp, they might be all in on this. But that's one of the reasons why businesses and society and governments and everything's going to crap, because you have unserious people in positions like this trying to push their thought process onto you, and men do not react to this. At least, can you make a picture, if you watched Mad Men, the TV show, can you picture Don Draper walking into this office and these women doing this? He'd say, like, what the hell are you doing? Get back to work. This isn't a dance club. Like, whatever you're doing, stop. This may sell products to somebody, but it's not going to be selling products to people that actually have money and care about things. And this is part of the point that I'm making, that Sydney is very upset that we're making fun of this, but men come out and make posts commenting like, this is unserious. You're children. And they get more likes on this. This is Twitter. It's not left-leaning or right-leaning. This is a broad spectrum of things. And here Sydney's getting ratioed because of it. And that's just one example. Here's another one. Now, this is from an account from Women Being Awful. It's got 200,000 followers. And they say, and this is, they posted a screenshot somebody else mentioned. They say, Andrew Tate isn't the reason your little brother got into the red pill. Kevin, and this is from a dude, a brother. Kevin Samuels isn't the reason black men go SYSBM. And I had to look up that acronym. It was you, yes, you. Men, young and old, started speaking and listening to each other. They quickly realized their experiences weren't isolated. And this is speaking of men's issues. Now, I said, what is SYSBM? And I looked it up, and this is on the acronym finder. It says SYSBM says, Save Yourself, Black Men. This is something apparently that's kind of an acronym that's become popular in cultures that I'm obviously not part of because of my skin color, where black men are saying, like, save yourselves, man. Society's not going to do it for you. These women aren't going to do it for you. Marriage isn't going to do it for you. The government isn't going to do. You're on your own. That is stoicism. That is the message that men's communities have been trying to share for a long time. And it's so popular they have their own acronyms, just like, going your own way or some of the others we have. That even black men are saying, hey, we have our own acronyms. We know what's going on. You guys need to pay attention out there. And these things go viral. It's more proof that because this information and these stories are so popular, channels like mine are now getting watered down. Again, not a complaint. They're getting watered down because so many other people are out there talking about it that it's hit the point where it's like, yeah, dude, we know. You're not telling anything we're not aware of. I don't even need to watch your videos anymore, or we don't need to talk about it because I got it. I'm aware of it. And now it's just figuring out how I'm going to make that work for me. That's a great thing. I think that's an excellent thing. Sorry, I've got a very happy dog wanting to play right now. What are you doing, buddy? Lay down. The other thing that I'm finding is that stories on women are miserable. They really are. Now, it doesn't sound like it's miserable women. They sound like they're bragging. They sound like they're doing great, but they're really not. This is from the Only Fools content creator that was bragging about having 300 bodies in a year and picking up strange dudes. And now she's bragging that she wants even more money and she wants more bodies for the next year. And then it's complaining about the amount of taxes she owes on how much money she's made and that it's unfair and that they should cap taxes. Well, geez, that's not what the left does. That's not what women are bragging about right now on the left. They're saying they need the tax rate. And an example, I think, it was either France or the UK that now their left government has gotten into power, and we'll talk about that momentarily. They're wanting the top earners to pay 90% taxes, just like they did during the 1940s after the Great War. Guess what, ladies? That means if you're making $1 million, probably everything over $300,000 or $400,000, you're going to pay 90% taxes on that. That means out of that million, you'll get to keep 100,000 of it. Do you think these women are going to be all in on the left and let's give all these social programs and open the borders and let all these people in? They're going to change their tune real quick because we're in that happy medium where everything's still good from the way men ran things to things becoming really bad when the women and the feminists and the left get hold of things. We're in that twilight between the two. And once it shifts over, there's going to be a whole lot of people changing their tune saying, hey, maybe these men, these conservatives, these free thinkers, these people that are not for government breathing down our necks, maybe they were right, but they're going to find out. She's complaining that she's getting judged. And another story on her, and I forget her name. They said the header up here, I slept with 300 people in a year. Haters say I'm disgusting, but I feel empowered. Do you think she's going to feel empowered as she ages and all the baggage and the damage she has? Is she going to find a good man that wants to provide for her for the rest of her life? Or is she just going to keep living this lifestyle till it's too late? We know the answer. And in the end, she may not agree now in her late 20s or whatever she is, but when she reaches that 40 or 50, she will find out. It'll just be too late. And now she's complaining, like in this story, I owe $400,000 in taxes for my Only Fools. It feels like punishment. She's finding out very quickly what happens when you have all these social programs and things that your tax money needs to pay for, and all of a sudden, they're taking a bunch of money from you. Her name is Annie Knight, and she owes $400,000 in taxes because she made about $100,000 a month from her, as they say here, her spicy business. And I'm going to come down here because there's a point where she says, where's the sentence I wanted to read? Right here. I just wish we didn't get punished for earning more money than other people. I think the highest tax bracket should be 30% for individuals. Oh, how quickly the tune changes. Now, I believe she's Australian, so she's not going to probably get hit like the UK or France or wherever else it is with the highest tax bracket. But eventually, Australia has open borders. The UK has open borders. Most of Europe does. America does. Eventually, you're going to have to pay for all those programs and all the freebies that these people are getting. What do you think? How do you think that happens? We either go deeper in debt, or we raise taxes, or both. How many of these people do you think that are getting into the workforce, like Dr. Sydney Watson's young ladies here dancing around with whatever the hell they were talking about? What do you think they're going to say when they work, quote unquote, really hard for their $100,000 a year in New York City, or $200,000 a year, whatever it is in New York City? And right now the tax rate's 50% in New York City. What happens when that goes 60% or 70% over X amount of dollars? Well, you got to pay for the people. You got to pay for the crime. You got to pay for the cops. You got to pay for all these programs. And then you're making 150 grand, but you're coming home with 60 grand. And then they want to complain about the price of apartments and the cost of living. We're just getting started. We're not even into the bad times yet, but they're going to find out very quickly. And so after that story, I said, well, I'm on New York Post. Let's go over to relationships. How's the relationship tab looking? Is it about men complaining about being single? No. Is it about men complaining about anything? Nope. It's all about women. Why? Because number one, those are the only articles that people are clicking to read. It's other women, and they're all miserable, and they're all unhappy. Or it's guys that are clicking on a story to laugh about them being miserable. You don't see anything about men here. Why is that? Because since men don't matter to the government, to publications, to society, since those men don't matter, they don't write stories about them. So maybe there are a lot of men that are struggling and are having a hard time, but we're not talking about them. Now, we talk about them, obviously, but the news isn't talking about them. So what are they doing instead? Showing all this craziness by the women. And it's shining a very bad light on women right now. The only bad light that's being shown on men are the men that are the criminals. But depending on what those men's skin color is or how they identify, even that's being covered up. As a matter of fact, now, because of political correctness, if a man says he's a woman, he gets marked down when he's arrested as a woman. So it's even that's making women look worse. Look at this relationship stuff. Now, for those of you on YouTube, you're going to hear a lot of blank words here. You're going to hear a lot of blank words here. And I'm getting into a lot more things. This is just a lot of bullet points I want to go over. But you're going to hear a lot of words that are blanks, YouTubers, because Big Mama YouTube. They say, millionaire reveals why men can't stop giving her money. You might say, well, that's a win, but it's not, because men are making fun of the dudes that are still doing this. And the men that are doing this, they're losing. The men that are doing this, they're the suckers. The strong men, the smart men, the men that have something going on in their lives that are doing well, that's not these guys. That's a win. Reveals so many husbands are bad in bed. How are their wives putting up with this? That's a woman. Notice now, 2 of these are about women making money sleeping around. My fiance dumped me days before our $38,000 wedding. Here's how I got revenge. That's not a great story about women. How owning Manhattan star's mom hijacked her dating apps and catfished her daughter's future husband. That is a woman acting badly. That's a loss. Are you suffering from post-wedding anxiety? That's a loss. New York City single ladies hit the man market at Whole Foods. They can't find men. That's a loss. Frustrated ex goes viral on TikTok and revealing new revenge trend. My way of making him pay. That's a loss. Etsy bans for women. That's a loss. Yana Hawking. That in and of itself is a loss. It's just trash. It's all tabloid garbage because women don't have anything going on. They have nothing that is being positive for them. And the reason why I know that men are winning is because of the way they're coming down on guys, the way they're coming down on conservatives, the way they're coming down on men that are not part of the program. They're coming after them very hard. Well, if the opposite of love is not hate, the opposite of love is apathy. And the same could be the other way around. The opposite of hate is apathy. Apathy, when you're apathetic towards somebody, you just no longer care. And if men were really that bad, if men's channels, if men's content, if men didn't have so much control over things, right now they're in power, both in the government and the media, they wouldn't care about us anymore. But they do. And they care so much that they're shutting conversations down because they deem us as problematic. This is a story from a couple of years ago, but I did look up the current information. YouTubers have identified a long list of words that immediately get videos demonetized, and they include but not straight or heterosexual. And this talks about an experiment that a guy did. YouTube channel Nerd City posted a video in collaboration with CeeLo, the CEO of Ocelot AI, and Andrew from the channel Analyze that showed content management system in action. They put together a list of 15,000 words and manually uploaded 1 to 2 second videos to determine which terms got flagged for, giving the channel marks. And here's for those of you on YouTube, I'm just going to lop this section out because I'm going to read about 30 words that are demonetized on YouTube. And you'll see that it's only against men's stuff. It's not against women's stuff. And that's because they have to control the narrative. You don't control the narrative against people that you don't care about. You control the narrative against somebody that is problematic, that you want to make quiet and silence and go away. Let me read down through these words and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a trend here. And you say, well, most of those things are words that you would probably describe as the left, or in the case of Alex Jones, that's someone you might actually be interviewing. But they gotta take that away. We can't have people talking about those things. They must control things. And this is the full 15,000 word list. Excuse me though, this is only 3,000 of them. So there's actually 5,000 more than this, or 5 times more than this. And a lot of them you look at that and say, yeah, that makes sense. Why do they have, and some of these words don't make sense, like for those of you that just heard some of me read some of them. Why? Because they must control the narrative, because if you don't, our thoughts, our ideas, the way we think about things might catch on. People might agree with us, and so they must keep us quiet. You don't do that for people you're not worried about. Now here, I looked up the words that are also banned on Twitch. And what's funny is there's really only 3 that are instantly marked. Specific banned words on Twitch. You ready? Twitch considers these specific words: incel, simp. They say they're just as bad as all the ones about race and everything else. Why? Because Twitch makes money off of these girls in bikinis and in bathtubs showing off this content. And guys that were tipping them money, guys that were giving these women this money, were being called simps and these names. And it was keeping these other men from tipping these women and doing these streams. It was keeping men from, they didn't want to get shamed, so they stopped tipping. Well, that cost Twitch money. That cost the girls money. And so they banned those words. They don't want the ideas that men are sharing to get out there. Now, of course, they're getting out there, and they're still going viral and being public. It's just the machine is fighting it as hard as it can because it's worried because men are winning. This is from Chris Pavlovsky. He is, I believe, the CEO. Let me look here. He's the CEO of Rumble. I love everything space and decentralized. He's got about 160,000 followers. He made a comment, and he went on the live stream of Fresh and Fit over on Rumble. As you know, Fresh and Fit have gotten demonetized over here on YouTube. So they went over to Rumble, and now they're live streaming, and they're becoming a big stream that is enjoyed by people over on Rumble. And Chris went on there, and he says, I will fight with fire with more fire. Brands will not, brands will be taught a lesson for their attacks on free speech. They're about to see the power of our movement unlike ever before. And what he's talking about is this. Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovski just announced that as a response to advertisers boycotting free speech platforms like Rumble and X, they will be launching 3 brands in one day, this upcoming Monday, to destroy the woke companies. If they don't want to advertise their products to half the country, then we'll create those products for half the country, says Chris. Let me play this clip by over on Fresh and Fit there.
Now, we're going to launch a few more. We're actually going to announce on Monday, we're going to launch 3 more brands on Monday. And these brands will then get built in to advertising with creators like you. And the reason why it works is because it converts. You guys have a real audience that buys this stuff. And other creators on Rumble have a real audience. So the way to break them is if they don't want to advertise their products to half the country, then we'll create those products for half the country.
Now, if you guys remember, Jeremy Boring over at the Daily Wire, he made his own razors. And then he came, and because the razor brand that was doing advertising with them said, we don't want to support conservatives. So he said, okay, we're going to make our own razors. It became very successful. Then Hershey's went kind of woke, and Jeremy said, well, okay, well, we'll make our own chocolate. And now they make their own chocolate bars. And Hollywood. And now they said, okay, well, we're going to have conservatives or men or issues that are not okay with Hollywood. We're going to start producing TV shows and movies. And now over on Rumble, they've started 1775 coffee, I think it is. Let me look it up real quick here. Yeah, here it is right here, 1775 coffee. This isn't just damn good premium coffee. And you can see right here, it says exclusive partnership with Rumble. So what they're doing is they're saying, look, we know there are guys out there that don't want to participate in what's going on. Now, coffee is a big one, and there's a lot of YouTubers that also do coffee, but they're just going to come out with more and more and more brands. And people that are free-minded guys that don't want to be part of the woke and they're going to start putting their money where their mouth is, and it will create kind of almost like a second free marketplace where men and conservatives and free-thinking people that don't want to be part of the machine, they get to do their own thing. They get to have this split in society. And that's a reaction to men saying, we're going to find a way to make things work even though you're holding us back. That is a loss for the left. It may not cost them a lot of money, but it does mean that there's an alternative that will grow in time. Dove soap, or some of these other products. Dove soap is a big one. Unilever, they've been around. Some of their products have been around for 100 years. So yes, it's going to take time for these, other brands that have been around for 15 hot minutes for them to catch up. And it's very easy to say, oh, you're never going to make it, but it will if you support them. And I did a search on, because I looked up YouTube banned words and Twitch banned words. I looked up words that are banned on Rumble. It says Canada's new free speech platform. And by the way, they might be moving out of Canada. I don't know if they have yet. Rumble's talking about moving from Canada to Florida because Canada's coming down on freedom. They didn't have anything about free speech or what they're removing or what Rumble removes for speech. But what they are saying is Rumble just doesn't accept harmful content. It amplifies it. Journalists on the platform, you can talk about the bug and you can talk about the jab and you can talk about politics and you can talk about all these other content you're not allowed anywhere else. And the response from the left is saying it's dangerous. This is bad. We must shut them down. We must stop them from speaking. Why do you do that? Unless you find it to be. And if it is, that's why they want to remove it. Because they can't let our words and your words as men, as free thinkers, as independent, they can't let those words out. Because if they are, then people might hear you and might agree with you and might actually think like you do. You don't do that if you're winning. You do that if you're losing and you're scared and you're worried about things. You're worried that you're losing control of the machine, and they are. Here's my Rumble feed, and you'll notice Podcast of the Lotus Eaters, they had on Alex. They spoke to him. Timcast is over there now. Nerdrotic is over there. I'm over there. Dave Rubin, Redacted News, a great news show. Paul Joseph Watson, he's somebody else that pushes back against the machine. Of course, Ben Shapiro. And these are just the ones that came up on my first page. There are so many people, Jeremy over at the Quartering, the Ron Paul Liberty Report, Russell Brand. There's a bunch of people that are speaking out against the machine. They're on YouTube, yes, but they have to watch what they say. We're moving over to Rumble. Before you know it, they're able to speak their mind. They're able to have interviews and the conversations that the machine doesn't want them to have. That's why the machine's pushing back so hard against Rumble specifically. They can't control it, but they're trying to. This is Public SQ or Public Square, which is an app. It's also a web page. Public Square. This was made so that people that are like-minded, freedom-minded, that love country, specifically the United States, that are proud to be American and aren't a self-hating. Well, guess what? Here you go. There's a website where you can say, okay, here's coffee and tea and women's clothing and outdoor recreation. They just started, a year and a half ago. And this is what Public Square does is they ask companies that are like-minded to sign up here. And then if you say, hey, I love my country and I like freedom and I'm not left-leaning and I want to support like-minded people, you can buy products here. And Public Square actually goes to the stores with secret shoppers, and they make sure that they're not just lying to sell their brand here, but they're actually legit. This is the counterculture that's forming. I have just a couple of little things that I'll tack on here to the end, and then I'll wrap it up. This is from Archive Today, because I'm not going to give the Telegraph any of my ad revenue. They say feminism has left middle-aged women like me single, childless, and sad. And this is from 25th of April, 2024. Another woman, let me see if I can open the link in a new tab here. Another woman, here's her photo, which is, let me see if I can open the image in a new tab. Maybe that'll work. And she's come of age. And she realizes now, I was lied to. This isn't such a great deal for us women. And I'm not going to read the article, but the whole thing, if you get down towards the end, she said, I'm sad all the time. And it's a solitary existence. Well, I'll read her one paragraph just so you hear it straight from her mouth. She said, the truth is that much of my depression sprung from a solitary existence that would be eschewed by a race of alley cats. I do not know one single woman of my generation who lives such a life and actually likes it. Now, she looks to be 40-something, maybe early 50s. She doesn't know one single woman of my generation who lives such a life and actually likes it. Our plight is like that of the Tory voter or of certain minorities before the 1960s liberal reforms. Such people as myself lead twilight lives, afraid to go out during the day, commiserating with each other in the privacy of our homes. Now, thanks to Generation Z, we're the demographic that dare not speak its name. Readers may demur, but I have sympathy for Gen X or Gen Z. I really do. Not for its idleness, but for its desire for emotional fulfillment, for its instinct that human affection and relationships are as important as work or even more so. She's an extremely sad woman, and she doesn't know any other women her age that are doing well. It's because they never find out until it's too late. And they're trying to teach the next generations, and the next generations aren't listening, just like these women didn't when they were young. And lastly, I'll leave it with this. The UK Conservative Party suffered its worst ever defeat. What went wrong? I can tell you, because the Conservatives in the UK were conservative in name only. They were following left-wing policies. that were damaging the country, and people said enough. And they went with many of them went with the Reform Party. And the Reform Party got a lot of votes, but they didn't get many seats because they're a new party. So they're not in power, but a lot of people voted that way, and the left is in power, and you're going to see the UK suffer the consequences over the years to come. The same thing happened in France. Macron's gamble, and Macron, sided with the far left socialists to keep the right out of power because overwhelmingly the people voted for the right. And they say, this is from CNN World, Macron's gamble has kept the far right out of power, but it plunged France into chaos. They're fighting. They're fighting with everything they have for the inevitable. The pendulum must come back right again, or it's going to fall off. And if it doesn't, and the chaos continues, then the world will be plunged into chaos and very bad times. And that may happen. So many of you say, yeah, but things aren't great right now. And men aren't in control of things right now. How can we be winning? Sometimes it's the inevitable. Sometimes you know things are bad. Sometimes you know things are going to get worse. But right now, we're not the ones in power. And when I say we, I mean men, conservative and or free thinking, not left, not part of wanting authoritarian. And more, this is a wake-up call, and everybody will see the truth for what it is, and that will likely change them for a generation to come. Because when things fall apart, just like dear girl over here that has to pay $400,000 in taxes, do you think she's going to keep voting for government giveaways? Or is she going to say, I should be able to keep more of my money. I should be able to keep what I've earned. It's going to come back. And that's why we are winning. It's just going to take a while to win. And yes, the other side of the authoritarians and the one trying to stop men from being free, stop conservatives or even the independent free thinkers in the middle, the ones trying to stop them, they do have power. And when it all collapses, their sham, their lies, their manipulations are going to be shown for what it is. And that will probably change the generations to come. Because you can only hold on to something by force for so long. And eventually when it breaks free, people will realize the truth. So I hope you can take a positive message away from that, because it really is. They do say it's darkest before the dawn. And there's a reason why that expression has survived through the ages. Because things are going to get very, very dark until some people realize they've been lied to, manipulated, and the truth has been hidden. And then things will get better. It's going to be a long, rough battle, but in the end, we will be victorious. And I have good feeling that eventually we'll come out of it okay. Keep your chins up. Might be a rough period, but we as men, as the intellectuals, as the ones that are using stoicism instead of emotions, will find the truth. We'll come out of it just fine, and we'll have a better day tomorrow. Guys, if you like my work, once again, support me on betterbachelor.com. Join me, it's betterbachelor.locals.com. Join me on my new news channel. I'll be doing more news stories over there. I'll probably be doing a little less on this channel because it's hard to find the stories that are actually interesting to you guys. More of my stuff, you guys just aren't. You're skipping over and watching something else. That's okay. I'm not upset about it. But I do like talking in front of a camera, and I do like looking at the news. So I'd like to keep being able to do some work that is somewhat relevant. And as the men's content gets less relevant and the news gets more relevant, I'll probably shift over more to that. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. We will see you in the next one.